Out here, deep in the Australian outback, Millburn Creek Farm is hundreds of miles from the suburban backyards of Sydney. Around here, the farms are so big you could drive for days to get from one end to the other. Besides the kangaroos, this is the land of sheep and the dogs and men who work them. On Millburn Creek Farm, the top dog is a 10-year-old Australian Kelpie named Basil. Nobody knows the precise origin of the Kelpie. Probably it's a mixture of English collie and the local Australian dingo, the world's first domesticated dog, the ancestor of all modern breeds.
Go back. Go back, Bess. Go back.
The Kelpie is ideally suited to the tough conditions of the outback, and Basil is Michael Johnston's best worker.
My main dog at the moment, he's the oldest, he's the most experienced dog. He's been on this property all his life, and he's led the way over the years.
This farm has more than 8,000 sheep and covers some 3,000 acres. Basil and his young son Rex work together rounding up the sheep. But although Rex is energetic, he lacks the older dog's discipline.
Rex, he is a dog, he's young, he's enthusiastic, he tends to do a lot more than what Basil does, and sometimes he doesn't listen quite as well. But he's an extremely good dog on the farm. Walk him up.
Kelpies have great intelligence and more than a touch of the hunter about them. Basil and Rex not only work the sheep, they stalk them. And this gives them great control over the flock.
They're both a terrific pair of dogs, and they're actually two of my best friends, and as far as the farm goes, they're as good as 4 or 5 men to me. So they're great. Decides to give it away. Back here. Back here. Back here.
Kelpies seem to have an instinctive control over the sheep. With their energy, their muscles, and their cunning, they keep these unruly animals in line. Although occasionally there is a minor rebellion.
They love work, they live for it. When they're working, they're actually working. It's not playing, they're really serious about it. Sometimes they get too serious about it, but they're out there to do a job and they know it.
Even for an old hand like Basil, moving a herd of sheep can be a tricky business. Not the bravest of animals, the sheep have decided today that this creek is too dangerous to cross. What they need is a little motivation, which they get in the form of 2 determined Kelpies who make it clear that they'd better get on with it. The result, the sheep get a bit of courage, and Basil and Rex get the job done.
They know what to do, they know when to do it, and basically I'm there just telling them what to do if something's going wrong.
Herding sheep in Australia is hot work, but Basil waited for his drink until the sheep were safely across the creek. Otherwise, they would have run away, and Basil would never let that happen. As a special treat, the boys get a ride home. But an Australian Kelpie's work is never done, and they wouldn't want it any other way. Why rest when you can help with a bit of sheep deworming? And this job takes a technique that few breeds besides the Kelpie can accomplish. It's called backing.
Their main purpose of going over their backs is to get to the front of the mob, because that's where they naturally want to be. Dogs will back naturally. It's something that's in them. They'll automatically want to get up on top and bark and travel to the front over the top. You encourage the dog to stay in with his sheep, and it takes a lot of courage because, I mean, they're big sheep and only little dogs, and they've got to drop in and come back through. Basil was backing when he was 5 months old, and he was backing right up into a shearing shed over big woolly sheep and coming back through them at 5 months old. Good.
2,500 sheep can be medicated in one day this way.
Get right up, right up. Hit him, mate. Right up. You're back here. Here, boy. Hop in. Sit. Get in. Back here. Get up. Here, Rex. Back here. Push up. Here, Rex. Get up, son. Get up, son. Here, Rex. Push up. Push up. Good boy. That's push.
Kelpies
That's
like
push.
Basil use many techniques to control a flock of sheep. They use their energy, their natural aggressiveness, and they use the eye. Like a border collie, the Kelpie has a devastating, hypnotic stare, and no mere sheep can hope to match it. The dogs keep the sheep under control, while Michael directs the action.
Go back. You're around. Right there. Go back.
A few words are all it takes to communicate with a champion sheepdog like Basil.
Speak.
On a huge Australian farm, the sheep can get away, far away. That's what's happened today. But Basil and Rex have the intelligence and the training to find the missing sheep and bring them back, all on their own.
Dog work. Dog's got to use his own initiative and get out there and do the job. I can't tell Basil what to do sometimes because he's too far away. He may have to leave me and go and get sheep and bring them up out of big gullies, and he may not even be able to see me until he comes back over the top of the hill. Good boy, Rex. For a working dog, he's got daily duties he's got to perform at, and he's got to work long hours, and some days the dogs might have to work up to 10 hours a day. And he's got to be able to work in the heat and the cold, the rain and the wind.
The Australian National Field Day is a major event for farmers and their dogs. Basil and Rex's daily herding makes them top contenders for the sheepdog trials, a competition Basil has won many times. Of course, this isn't just herding sheep. It's proving you can do it better and faster than those other dogs. And Basil, even though he's 10 years old, is the dog to beat. He's got a reputation as big as a sheep herder's hat. These trials are a part of Australia's history. A dog by the name of Kelpie won the very first trial back in 1872. And today, Kelpies like Basil and Rex compete for money and prestige. It's entertainment, but for sheep herders and sheep dogs, this is serious business. Michael leads with the energetic Rex, who does pretty well. But for sheer talent, determination, and intelligence, there's no dog who can touch Basil. His control over the sheep is legendary. And by the end of the day, the old veteran has beaten them all once again. Basil has more than 24 national titles.
Boy.
Now stay. Aussie, stop. Stay there. Stay there.
You know, for an old dog, that's what I mean. He gives you 150% of effort all the time. He never lets you down. He's always there and he's always trying. And a dog that tries and tries and tries, they'll come up trumps every time. I mean, it's a great thing, and especially for a dog his age. So I'm absolutely thrilled. And, you know, he knows it too, I think. So I'm pretty happy with him.
Here. Right back here. Here.
He may have come in first at the sheep trials, but Michael knows that Basil's not far from retirement. And so one of Basil's pups looks like a likely replacement.
I picked this bug out of the litter. He's a dead ringer of his father when he was a pup. Very, very much the same. Good boy, mate. Good boy. Hopefully in 2 or 3 years' time he'll take his father's place. All we can do is keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Old Basil can retire.
But that's the future. In the meantime, Basil is still Michael's top dog.